welcome to another episode of the Endless Spiral podcast. You're all very welcome. I am, as always, your host, Keith Russell. On this episode, we have Niamh Orbinski back with us for part 2 of the discussion on developing a healthy relationship with food and exercise. I'm sure you all tuned in last week where we talked about food, so we'll do the second part of that today where we'll talk about exercise. So I just want to thank Niamh for coming back for this episode, and hopefully we'll wrap things up today. Before I bring Niamh in, I just have a couple of things I want to mention. I'll do this very quickly. I had an article written about me yesterday from the guys at breakingnews.ie, just about me and my story and about the endless spiral and kind of what things are coming up in the future. And they had it as their lead story yesterday on the website. So I just want to thank the guys for that, because it does help raise awareness for kind of men's mental health and everyone's mental health, really, and body dysmorphia. So I want to thank the guys for that. One more thing, and this is for Niamh. This isn't from me. I've had a couple of questions sent in to me from our podcast last week, and that is, what exactly is intuitive eating? Niamh, I'll hand the floor over to you if you want to try and give that a go for me.
Yeah, when I get asked this question, it's hard to like boil it down into a sentence, but
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Um, so intuitive eating is the complete opposite of any diet that tells you exactly what, when, and how much to eat. And it brings the focus from external cues to internal ones. So we rely on things like hunger cues, fullness cues, and satisfaction cues to guide our eating. So it helps to either develop interoceptive awareness or break down barriers that we may have to interoceptive awareness. So to explain a little bit about what interoceptive awareness is, because I'm sure people have never heard this phrase before, um, basically interoceptive awareness is the ability to notice signals that come up in the body and thus be able to respond to them in the physical or in the exact moment, right? So for example, when you need to go to the toilet, you get that signal just in the moment, don't you? You
Yeah.
don't plan, okay, it's now 10 a.m. and my toilet break is at 12 p.m. and I can't go to the toilet until 12 p.m. So that we don't do that. We just feel the signal that we've got a full bladder and then we respond to it by going to the toilet. But we don't really do that with food. We've got lots of rules and restrictions and ideas around when we should eat, how much we should eat, and what exactly we should eat in that moment. So intuitive eating kind of gets rid of all that, pulls all those rules away, tries to reconnect you with your own internal signals, and then allows you to guide your eating decisions based on those signals. So it was developed by two dietitians in the US in the 1990s,
Yeah.
and is an evidence-based framework that has over 140 studies touting its benefits. So things like increased body satisfaction, increased self-esteem. Intuitive eaters tend to have a lower BMI, lower body fat percentage. There's tons and tons of benefits, but the best way to describe an intuitive eater is the baby that I mentioned in our last
Yeah.
session, I think.
Yeah.
So that is an intuitive eater. A baby instinctively knows when they're hungry, when they are too full, when they've had enough, when they don't like a food, when they really enjoy a food. So yeah, it's all about trying to get you back in touch with your own signals, because we get very disconnected with these because of all the messages. We'll hear eat at a certain time but don't eat after 7 p.m.
Yeah.
and have this for breakfast, or maybe have this amount of calories during the week, but then you can up the calories at the weekend. Like, there's just so many rules. So there's no rules, no tracking, no anything like that in intuitive eating.
Right. Okay. So brilliant. Okay. So I suppose I'm probably gonna make a balls of this now, but is it oversimplified? Is this? I suppose it's to stop you maybe binging. So if you're restricting something, you kind of have a craving for it, and you end up just binging. I suppose it's partly that, is it?
Yeah, like that's a huge part of intuitive eating. I know you said before I came on, Keith, can you
Yeah.
say it in a few sentences?
Yeah.
um, it's a huge framework. It's massive. But yes, absolutely, because like dieting is the biggest predictor of binge eating.
Mm.
So dieting increases binge eating by up to 18 times,
Wow.
which is crazy. Because If someone says to you, don't think about pink elephants,
Mm.
all you can think about is pink elephants. So if you think, I cannot have the chocolate bar on a Wednesday evening, you will be constantly thinking about that chocolate bar.
Mm.
And then because of diet mentality, because it's very all or nothing, so I'm either all in or I'm all out. The minute you have the nibble of the chocolate bar, it's like, oh, well, I'm here now. I might as well have one bar and 2 bars and 3 bars because I have to make the most of it in this moment. So yeah, intuitive eating
Mm.
helps to reduce binging because we remove those rules.
Right. Okay. Get you. Okay. Brilliant. So there you go. Couple of sentences.
Yeah, if anyone is really kind of confused, follow me on Instagram. It's the best way to get a kind of feel for what intuitive eating is. And I've got a blog on my website as well explaining it. So if anyone is interested, they can go to nutritionwithniamh.com to just get a little bit more information on it as well.
Yeah, and it's your Nutrition with Niamh on Instagram as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, perfect. Right. So on to part two. So today we're going to do the exercise. Well, I say exercise, but I know, Niamh, you prefer to call it movement. So which terminology are we using today? Is it exercise or is it movement?
Let's use movement just so that we can get
Let's.
into this new mindset.
All right. Okay. Right. So So I have to redo my whole website. Thanks very much. So right. So today we're going to be doing movement. So we'll do this a little bit unscripted. So because let's just start from the beginning and we'll take this that I know nothing about what we're doing, because obviously I don't, because I've been 20 years trying to figure this out. So I suppose if we start off with what is or why is it important to have a healthy relationship with movement?
Okay. I'm going to use myself as an example here, because I think stories are always the best way to illustrate why this is really important. So I hated exercise, let's say, right? I hated it when I was in college, probably after college as well. It was always something that I felt like I had to do, and it was connected to maintaining a body shape or a weight loss since I was about 13, 14, I'd say. And I had built up this story in my mind that I hated exercise. That was it. I just hated it. It was just something that I had to do because it was better for my health to exercise every so often. So then one of my friends dragged me along to a yoga class, and I was going through something difficult at the time, and she thought it would be really good for me mentally. So I went along anyway. I was a little bit of an eye roller when it came to yoga and didn't really know what to expect. I was a little bit scared, if I'm honest. um, Went into the class, and it just totally changed my experience with exercise because of the level of acceptance that was in the particular class that I went to. So my experience of exercise, let's say before, was being at the gym, sweating as hard as you can, burning as many calories as you can, basically just going balls to the wall for an hour and nothing else counted. So it was all or nothing with me when it came to exercise.
Yeah.
Whereas when I went into this first yoga class, it was so gentle in its approach, not in how difficult it was for my body. So I kind of had this paradox going on where it was difficult, but it was calm. And that was so different to my previous experience with exercise. It was like every minute I was on the treadmill, I hated it. I was like, I don't want to do this. 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 So I'm reinforcing this belief that I hate exercise. So then I practiced religiously for like only once a week, I think, for about 6 months. And then I went on and did my yoga teacher training, and now I teach yoga. And absolutely love movement. And the reason why it's so important to have a healthy relationship with movement is, like, I'm like a walking example. If I had never experienced joy with movement like I did with yoga, I would still be the girl that hates exercise and probably wouldn't do it very often. So if you have a healthy relationship with it and it's something that you really enjoy doing rather than something you have to do, you will engage in it more often than if you don't.
I'm so similar. I mean, as we look, we all know my problem with exercise and food, which is the whole reason why we're here in the first place. But I mean, I play five-side football, and we could play for an hour and a half, and I love it, and I wouldn't even notice I'm there.
Mm,
And
mm,
I know I did never wear my watch, but I wore it once just to try it, and I was like, now I know this isn't why we're doing it, but I had like 12 or 1300 calories burnt, and I didn't even know I was there,
mm,
if you know what I mean.
mm.
And then Eve and I started the yoga myself in the last few weeks, and I exactly know what you mean. But then even yesterday, I said to myself, well, I'll try go on the treadmill and just do a little bit. And it's the
Yeah,
same. It's like 15, 20 minutes in, and I have to put the iPad in front of me to try and take my mind off what I'm doing, because it's just
yeah,
torture. And you're
yeah.
constantly looking at the dials in front, and
Mm,
it's going up and down, and you're like, oh my jeez, I just want to get off this.
yeah.
It's just as you said, the mindset is just so important.
Yeah, like I came off just before we came into the meeting, I came off a session with a client and we were talking all about movement. And um, she shared this realization that she thinks she actually doesn't like the gym. I'm like, that's totally cool. How about we just give up the gym?
Yeah.
How about we explore other options? What else do you think you would love to do? Can we start there? Because life is too short to
Mm,
be punishing yourself through militant exercise. There are so many different forms of movement that you can do. I mean, I adore yoga. I'm buzzing. Like I'm going into a hot yoga class later on this evening. I'm buzzing for it. Like I cannot wait. If I had to go to the gym for an hour, I would be dreading it. Like it would just take over my whole day, and life is too short for that.
yeah.
So I love yoga, but that doesn't mean somebody else will love yoga, and that's totally fine. If it's maybe it is the gym, maybe somebody loves the gym, or they love spinning, or they love hiking, or they love swimming, or surfing, or dance, or ballet, or Pilates. Like there are
Mm,
so many different forms of movement out there. And let's also remember, Keith, that playing with your kids in the backyard, or
mm.
playing with your dog, or gardening, or hoovering are all forms of movement, and they all count. So
You've,
whether it is, sorry, go
I was going
on.
to say, you've been looking at my Instagram, haven't you? I posted a
Yeah.
post last week, and the sweat was dripping off me, and I'd only been hoovering for about a half an hour.
Serious workout getting hoovering.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I think, and this is why I use the word movement, because I feel like it's more encompassing.
Mm,
That there's nothing wrong with the word exercise, but I think we've attached exercise to being something that I have to do. So exercise is the gym, but it's not hoovering. Whereas
mm.
movement could be the gym, or hoovering, or playing with your kids.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So what if somebody kind of is yoga? Will yoga give people maybe the same impact as say they love going to the gym, but
Mm,
they're probably loving it for the wrong reasons, if you know what I mean?
mm,
Will yoga kind of give them the same, maybe the same experience, or maybe the same how I'm trying to put this kind of politely, maybe not give them the same body shape, if you know what I mean?
mm,
Maybe it's that
mm-hmm.
it's so important, or maybe someone's body shape is important. Like you could be a model, it could be your income, like you could be a model or something like that. And you kind of they feel like they have to go to the gym all the time.
Yeah.
Well, doing something else kind of give them the same results.
Yeah. Definitely just depends on the form of yoga
Mm,
that you went for. So there
okay,
are so many different types of yoga. I mean, I
okay,
teach yin yoga and I teach vinyasa. So like when I'm going in this evening for my hot class, that's vinyasa in a
okay.
heated room. Like it is not easy. I'm having to ease myself back in after 6 months of not being in hot yoga. Um, but yeah, like yoga can be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. If somebody is starting off, I wouldn't recommend to go to the hot vinyasa class as your first kind of step into the space, because if I had done that for my first class, I probably would have never gone back. Um, so I think like with any movement, to be honest, we need to like bed in softly,
Yeah.
start small, not go from 0 to 100.
Mm,
Um, but like if it is, building muscle, for example, like yoga uses your body weight,
mm,
so it's still strengthening your muscles.
yeah.
And that's not to say that yoga has to be someone's only exercise, or only form of movement. They
Mm,
they could still do strength training
yeah.
if and like pair it with a yoga session. Like I was teaching a hurling team yesterday evening just after their games. Now we weren't doing anything too crazy because they were bet, I'd say, after playing for the whole afternoon. But it's really important that we have these different forms of movement in our practice as well, because if you only do, let's say, strength training, you only lift weights, your body will be so tight.
Yeah.
And then if you can go into a yoga class where you improve your flexibility and you lengthen out your muscles, like your yoga practice will improve your other forms of movement, so improve
Yeah.
how deep you can go when you're lifting weights. And like I see this with, like, I have men in my class that have been coming to me for years and they're runners, and they've said that their running is now much better, their recovery time is better because of their yoga practice. So it's
Wow.
complementary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been trying yoga for the last 2 weeks, and I've discovered I'm like the Tin Man out of the Wizard of
Mm,
Oz. I just can't move. I just
yeah.
show like yeah. It's just it's so different. You
Yeah,
know.
it's yoga uses a completely different range of muscles than,
Mm,
say, like strength training would. And they both have a place, of course.
mm,
But like I teach some private classes as well, and um some of the kind of older people that have came to me for privates because they feel like they're too exposed in a public class and they want to go at a level that they
mm,
feel comfortable with, and things like balance and mobility.
mm,
This is going to keep your joints supple, keep you mobile, keep your posture right. Like, even with things like arthritis as well, like
mm,
creating space in between the joints, especially among the spine. We sit all day where our
mm.
discs are literally sitting on top of each other. So through yoga, you can lengthen out your body. I mean, I grew an inch through my yoga teacher training.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The reason what now I didn't obviously grow, but
You
it was just
stretched it.
because
Yeah.
I'm lengthening my body out, so there's more space in between the discs. So yeah, there's massive benefits to having a yoga
Yeah.
practice. So fair play.
Well, we'll see how
How's
it
it been
goes.
new?
Yeah. So, how does this tie in with, I suppose, our chat from last week? So, how does you know, how does the healthy relationship with food and exercise tie in together? Because obviously they are connected in some way.
Yeah. Um, like with my work, Keith, I usually break it down into four different categories. So you've got relationship with food, and this is where the intuitive eating comes in. So trying to strip away the rules and build back up new habits that suit you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got body image. Body image is a huge piece of what I do as well. Then you've got nutrition, and then you have intuitive movement. Because if you're looking at trying to improve your health, say, we need a healthy relationship with food and we need to eat healthy as well, but we also need a healthy relationship with movement and move our bodies. So the common denominator here between intuitive eating and intuitive movement is satisfaction. So
Yeah.
with intuitive eating, we want to find satisfaction in the eating experience and satisfaction in the body through food, because food is incredible as to how amazing it can make you feel and not feel at the same time. And the
Mm.
same can be said for movement. Like, movement can make you feel absolutely incredible and also not make you feel great. So because movement and food are so closely connected, that's why there is a whole principle within intuitive eating called joyful movement.
Joyful movement. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, or actually, I read a quote there this morning. So I wrote it down here. It said, don't exercise to eat, eat to exercise."
Mm.
Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, like to fuel it, fuel
Mm,
your movement, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, like I last week I was going into a class and I do this calculations in my head, subconsciously, that when was the last time I ate? It was 4.5 hours ago. Am I going to get through this class? Because I've learned from my experience that if I do not eat something to top up the fuel stores, I won't perform as well. And if you're not eating to fuel your movement, you'll find it very difficult to progress as well. So nutrition is such a huge role in your progression when it comes to movement. So like if your tummy is completely empty, you've got no circulating glucose, your body will go to your muscle to break that muscle down to supply energy to you to burn those 600 calories. So eating a very limited amount of food is not going to progress your exercise regime.
Yeah.
It'll actually do the opposite. So you want to make sure that you're always fully fueled when it comes to
Yeah.
stepping into a movement practice.
Would you have anything in particular before your yoga class? Is there anything specific you have, or is it whatever you feel like?
Yeah, it depends on, I wouldn't suggest having a full meal, probably up to 2 hours before. Like a banana is always my go-to because
Okay,
it's
right.
given me that quick kind of or quicker release of energy. Maybe a yogurt, as long as you've had kind of a meal in the last kind of 4 hours, let's say 3 to 4
Okay.
hours, then just topping it up with some banana, some peanut butter, maybe some oat cakes, maybe some yogurt, something that's going to mean that you have the energy to move through practice. So like this is where my nutritionist brain comes in. Like, but I wouldn't eat an oat cake straight before I go into a class because that energy is not going to be released in time for me to use it. So that's why I choose the banana instead.
Okay, right, get you. Okay, and I suppose people need to kind of be realistic about their expectations with all of this. I suppose it's not a quick fix either, and I suppose that's the problem with, especially with me, is that, and maybe I'm sure a lot of people as well, is they use exercise as a quick fix. So say they're going on
Mm,
holiday in a few months and they go, right, I have to
mm,
kill myself in the gym because I have to use this certain amount of
mm,
weight. This was just like it's not a quick fix,
mm-mm.
and it shouldn't
No,
be.
and no, and I mean, like exercise is not something that you do once and then you're
Mm,
fit for life. Like
yeah,
it's a practice that you need to maintain over your lifetime. And going back to why is a healthy relationship with movement important? That's important. That's why it's important because it won't be something you'll maintain long term if it is just that stick the plaster on something, get my body into certain shape for this event, and then forget about it afterwards.
yeah,
Um, and if you can focus on how you feel internally when you're moving rather than how you look externally, that will completely flip the script and change your mindset as well.
yeah. Okay. And do you have a different approach, say, to or compared to a personal trainer? Like, what would the difference be?
Oh, big question. It depends on the PT.
Right.
Like I
Okay.
have a friend who's an amazing PT and
Mm,
she's big into functional movement.
okay. Right.
So the main difference, Keith, is that I teach functional and not aesthetic. So I don't care if you don't look a certain way, as long as you're feeling the posture in a certain area of the body, then you're doing it. Good job. And a PT can be exactly like that too. So to be honest, it just depends on the PT. Of course,
Okay.
I'm a yoga teacher. I'm not a PT.
Yeah.
Obviously, PTs will have more experience in wide ranging forms of movement. But yeah, that's the kind of the main difference. I would always, if I was looking for a PT tomorrow, I would look for someone that allows me to listen to my own body. So if I go to a PT and they say to me, I don't care that you're tired, I want you to do 50 laps around the pitch, I'd be like, see you later. Because like my body is telling me something and that needs to be taken into account in the conversation. Of course, some people prefer to be pushed. I'm probably not that person. I've been to boot camp in the past where it's like, Niamh, drop, and I'm like, see ya. I just don't respond to that. I have walked out of boot camps in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'd be looking for. I'd also be looking for a PT that tries to connect me with how I feel in my body, rather than what my body looks like.
Hmm.
So my progress is not measured purely on the number on a scale, or how many, laps I did on the pitch today, for example.
Yeah.
It's how movement makes me feel. If a PT is doing that, then I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And we have some great like body inclusive, weight inclusive PTs around the country as well. That number is growing. It's still quite small.
Okay.
But yeah, I think just like everyone deserves to move no matter what size body you're in.
Exactly. I think we'll wrap that up because, as I said, I like to kind of keep these podcasts short because I know they can be quite a bit heavy for some people to listen to, and I hope they're not, but they can be, maybe to use the pun, hard to digest at times. So we might leave that there. Niamh, have you anything you want to add before we go? Do you think that we've covered everything?
Yeah, I think so. Like what I can say is to just explore. Like if people can just, explore different forms of movement, try something new and make it fun. So I said to my client earlier, make it fun. That should always be in the conversation, is how can I make this movement fun? And if that movement is really not fun for you, then maybe it's not the movement for you.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Niamh, it's nutritionwithniamh.com, and it's your new Nutrition with Niamh on Instagram, isn't it? It's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, I think we leave that there. I think we've covered just about everything. I'll be doing another podcast on Friday, and I've got a couple lined up next week as well. So I'll be talking to you all again very soon. Bye for now.